Inside the mega-prison, how one cell block holds 10,000 inmates. The sirens don't begin as screams. They begin as breath. One soft beep, then 10 more, then a river of red rolling down the spine of Titan block. Red washes over faces and steel, licking the rails and metal bunks, painting the fog that hangs like a curtain in the air. Cameras on the ceiling blink alive and start counting. The loudspeaker's voice is flat as iron. Head count block Titan. Stand by. Rows stand. Then more rows. Then 1,000 more. 10,000 yellow wristbands glow like fireflies under warning lights, and anybody who ever doubted that one room could hold a small city now sees it. Level stacked 5 high, catwalks strung like black piano wires, a floor as wide as a football field, and 10,000 men standing still in the weather of a single machine. Inside the glass box above them, Officer Maya Collins forgets to blink. The stitch feeds turn 12 angles into one impossible picture. Behind her, Warden Alex Monroe stands with a jaw you could use as a level. Numbers river across the bottom of the screen. 00001, 05000, 10,000, then snap green. Full. Even the computers sound pleased. But the building hum changes. Deeper, stranger. Rails tremble. A thin electric spider crawls blue across the ceiling and vanishes into the bones of the place. Maya feels a vibration through the desk and through her own ribs and knows, without a word spoken, that the night just chose them. Power doesn't fail with drama. It fails like breath leaving a room. The stitched screens don't shatter. They sigh to black. The red dies. The hum stops. 10,000 silhouettes exhale together in the darkness, so thick it holds the dust in the air. Somewhere far off, a heavy motor licks once like a tongue, and the sound echoes like a dared secret. Back up, a tech barks. Maya's fingers find the switch, but Warden Monroe's voice cuts through first, even in low. Hold. His eyes don't move from the black glass. If you've ever watched a waveform before it breaks, you know that look. The screens come back as ghosts, grain and smear, and then clarity. The main gate's red eye glows, and the 20-ton steel jaw at the far end of Titan creeps up an inch. Sparks needle under the teeth. A second inch. The men nearest that slit become magnets leaning toward light. The warden leans forward until the glass cools his breath. Seal everything. Steel shutters on the far side start to roll with a reluctant schoolyard rattle. A power tech whispers, "Surge," like a prayer. The backup decides it doesn't want to be a hero and flutters again. The room drops to darkness, and the only light left is the emergency strip painting Maya's sleeve blood red. "Sir," she says, voice too steady for her heart. The gate. The gate rises the way fear does. Quietly at first, then louder because everyone can suddenly hear it. 2 inches. 3. The slit throws a blade of red across the slick concrete, and the whole block seems to tilt toward it. On the catwalk, Sergeant Harris is already moving, barking orders into a dead speaker that still makes his larynx buzz. Lines at inner door. Shields ready. Foam to east hatch. He knows they may never step in. He also knows you don't plan a dam after the river breaks. Maya spots details that don't belong to panic. A paper cup rolling in place. A bunk chain shivering. A tiny lighthouse stamp on a folded letter clenched in a small man's fist. She drops her gaze to the left row and finds him. Marcus King. Standing in a seam of chaos like a rivet, one hand low, palm down, telling 10 men to slow without a word. It's a human break. It works for 10 feet, then 20. Manual drop. "Crank now," the warden orders. 2 guards sees a steel wheel the size of a ship's helm. It groans, shrieks, bites. The gate answers with a grudging thumb's width down. A sound like hope, a single clap, pops somewhere in the hall. Again, Harris grinds. The wheel obeys. So does the room, by inches, by breath. Marcus doesn't look at the opening. He looks at the people staring at it. He moves sideways, shoulders squared, carving lanes where bodies would jam. He nods at Big Nate, top bunk loyalist with bad knee, who plants himself like a traffic cone between impulse and slit. He flicks 2 fingers at Luis Carter, the mechanic with rubber bands in his sleeve, who turns and sets it back to the gap, palms out, eyes soft but firm. Jordan Miles, the kid with the lighthouse letter, steps up on a bunk, holds the paper chest high, and becomes a tiny flag that says here, not there. Maya narrates the choreography without meaning to. Slow, breathe, lane 3, back 1 step. Monroe hears her tone more than her words. It's the tone of someone turning panic into tasks. He hits the intercom that still feeds a corridor mic. This is Warden Monroe. Hold your positions. We will fix the gate. His voice lands as ballast. The line nearest the gap eases backward like a tide when the moon changes its mind. The red light blinks twice, almost shy. Somewhere overhead, a fan coughs back to life. The building inhales. 4 or 5 heartbeats. The storm listens. The hand crank is old, honest work, the kind that eats shoulders and pays in inches. One guard's forearms shine like oil cable. The other's teeth bare in a snarl he'll call a smile later. Sparks spit from the gear face like wasps. The wheel rotates another quarter, and the gate lands heavier. Less curious now. Harris braces the housing with a knee. Keep it singing. Behind the glass, Maya tracks torque against gravity the way a medic tracks pulse. She can almost feel the steel in her own wrists. Then the room throws its first real punch. A food cart somewhere on the 3rd tier tips, kisses a rail, and falls. It rings the floor like a bell. Every spine tightens. Half the eyes jump forward, half jump back. That tiny disagreement ripples out and becomes a wave. Shudders at 70%. A tech cries, "Don't you quit." Maya whispers to metal like it's a pet with stubborn bones. The curtain shudders, descends another foot, and stalls an inch above the ground like a smile that can't commit. "Good enough," Monroe says. "Hold it there. Keep cranking." The men do the math you can't teach. If the big door won't shut quickly, make the small opening smaller. Survive by fractions. Lights don't blaze back. They gather, shy and yellow, then harden to honest gray. Fans spin up, a familiar song finding its chorus. Cameras blink in, out, and in again. The first thing they show is the main gate planted on the floor. Teeth mesh like a jaw deciding to behave. The second is Marcus King sitting on the end of a bunk, hands folded, eyes closed, as if counting rocks and sand and choosing which to be today. The third is the wrench clattering from the guard's hand to the concrete, because sometimes hero work ends with gravity winning in a gentle way. Applause never belongs here. So it doesn't come. What arrives is breath. Thick, grateful, human. Full medical sweep. The warden orders. Water carts everywhere. Nurse Emily is already moving, tossing cold packs and checking pupils with a little penlight that saved more nights than any speech. Chaplain Thomas rolls his contraband peppermints down the hall and gives Harris 2 without ceremony. Harris tucks him into his cheek like a ball player and doesn't thank him because the thanks isn't a chew. Maya leans back. For one blink, she lets her eyes sting. Then the building clears its throat. A blue light glows on the master board. Color the system doesn't use for anything friendly. What's blue? Maya asks. Harris's face answers for him. Sub-basement. It shouldn't be on. It's marching now. Dot by dot under Titan, along the old service line that lives in maps they no longer pull. A voice rides a hall speaker. Thin, calm, intimately close. Hello, Block Titan. Did you miss me? Warden Monroe doesn't blink. He knows the name attached to ghosts. He says it out loud, so fear can wear a label. Ethan Cole. The voice chuckles without heat. Breathe easy. I'm checking your pulse. The warden's reply is measured as a surgeon's hand. Mr. Cole, cease all actions immediately. Ethan sighs like he's bored of adults. Alex, you built weather, not rooms. 10,000 in one box? That's not control, that's climate. In the tunnel cam, a gray, grainy slice of concrete and relic pipe. A seam shows where a wall should be smooth. A door with no handle. Framed by nothing, exhales dust. Open a little, Ethan whispers, and the line widens like an eyelid waking. What's powering him? Maya asks the air. Not us, says the tech, offended on behalf of his panels. Manual, Harris guesses. Nurse Lee shakes her head. People like him bring their lanterns. Warden Monroe dials the number you store, hoping never to use. Swat, he says, calm enough to convince the phone. Under Titan. Bring cutters, Foam, eyes. 10 minutes. Comes the answer, crisp as a blade. Hold your lines. On screen, a small hooded figure slips into view. Slight, quick, hands careful as a cat burglar's. It lays a silver box by the seam door and tapes thin wires and arcs that look like roots. It glances up at the camera and, indecently, waves. Foam, east hatch, the warden orders. Officers crack a cylinder, and winter pours into summer. Thick, white, expanding. The foam crawls into seam like frosting, swallowing wires, hugging pipes, erasing the door one soft gulp at a time. The hooded runner slides sideways through the last slit and disappears into the guts of the wall. "Fill it," Harris says. They do, until the frame is a bright hillside of snow that should not exist in a room like this. Seal. A steel plate snicks across the hatch, satisfying as a seatbelt. The blue dots on the board don't vanish. They drift, jellyfish under concrete, curious and patient. The tunnel camera stutters once and resolves to a still white ocean. Then the impossible happens. A handprint blooms from the far side of the foam. Perfect lines press in the hidden corridor. Long fingers, wide palm. Another print stamps beside it. Another. The foam dents. Trembles, bulges as if a small crowd is testing the soft blockade, like a trampoline. Not one person, the warden says. He's not alone. Maya feels her scalp tighten the way it does when a story she was told becomes a thing she can touch. On the floor above, a low percussion starts under the shoes of 10,000. Knock, knock, knock. Pause. Knock, knock, knock. Code with no translator. Heads tilt. Louise Carter's eyes narrow like a mechanic reading a misfire. Big Nate mutters, "Nope," as if he can muscle the sound back into the slab. Jordan's lighthouse letter trembles in his hands, and he tucks it under his pillow again. Superstition wearing the face of hope. The building listens to itself. Through the speaker, Ethan smiles with his tongue. Systems are the shape of your secrets. Alex, you can lock a door. Can you lock a pattern? The wake-up chime, gentle, hated, rolls out of the ceiling at the wrong hour, a soft command that turns muscle memory into static. Men twitch to stand, to count, to begin. Cruel, Nurse Lee says, and Maya agrees with a silence that sours her mouth. The warden hits deadbolts that live under a flip cover. 12 nickel keys sink into steel. With a teeth-on foil scrape Maya will remember in dreams. He can nip, Monroe says, voice flat, but we still know this building better than he does. The tunnel cam shows the foam he'll hold. The sub-basement map shows blue beads slide and settle under the chapel, under the old loading bay, under the laundry in a cruciform pattern. 4 points, Captain Rivera announces as SWAT goes into the room, mad and disciplined. He wants you to split. We won't, Monroe answers. People first. Rivera nods, lowers the snake cam through a new cut, and the new eyes see what old maps have got. Frost-dusted concrete, mineral veins, a corridor fork, prints and dust, bare and booted, skids like something heavy was dragged recently. Right side, Nurse Lee says suddenly, "Heat rises. He'll want air left. Go where he isn't." Rivera shrugs, respects the logic, and slides right.